Hello, Sid Roth here with David Herzog. And David, we were talking about portals. So the rarefied air of heaven can come in our lives, breathe on our situations. And if God is in our situation, you don't have to worry about anything. Now, these portals are used for good, obviously, but evil uses portals too.
Sure.
And you, in fact, you went into a New Age health food store. And tell me about your experience
Sure.
there.
Well, actually, it was just a health food store, but in my town, you know, everything is
Sedona.
Yeah, so that explains it. And so I went to get a sandwich, you know, and I go over there, and the girl goes, "Oh, you haven't been here in a while. Where have you been?" So I tell her about Peru and our outreaches and the miracles. And then I said to her, "How was your week?" And she tells me, "Oh, it was quite interesting. I levitated yesterday a couple of feet off the ground," she tells me. Now, normal reaction would be, "What?" But I reacted this way, "How high did you get? 3 feet?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "How did you do that?" She goes, "Well, I invited 10,000 Buddhas to come inside me." I said, "It took 10,000 Buddhas and you only got 3 feet?" I said, that's really some low-level power. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it took 10,000 just to come a couple feet off the ground. That's too bad. You had to have..." And I said, "You know what? They're not real Buddhas. They were deceiving you. Those were demons." She goes, "Really?" I go, "Do they have little bellies? They have little bellies like Buddha bellies?" And she goes, "No." And she goes, "Maybe you're right. Maybe they were tricking me." She said, "I felt very uncomfortable during the whole thing." I said, "Well, if you have 10,000 demons come in your body, you're not going to feel too good that day." And then, but you know, talking in love to her, and then I said to her, "You know, Jesus, he's great." She goes, "Oh, I love Jesus. He's always my friend." And, you know, they love Jesus and Buddha and Gandhi and whatever.
Sure.
And I said, "You know, that's great, but he died for you and rose from the dead." She goes, "Oh, I can relate. I rose from the dead too." I said, "Really? So this is my town, you know." And I said, "You really?" She goes, "Yes, I was clinically dead in the hospital. Jesus appeared to me and I rose from the dead in the hospital."
Really?
But she didn't have a believer to explain to her the salvation experience. So she's studying to be a psychic because she wants to help people. So then she said, but during the Buddha experience, the fake Buddhas, when she was levitating, after she came back down, Jesus appeared to her, which he often does, and took her to a place called the Kingdom of Heaven. And she said, for some reason, I could not get in. And the voice came and said, "No man comes to the Father but through me." And I said, "You know, I can tell you what that dream meant. He's jealous. He's been following you since he rose you from the dead. He's been visiting you off and on, even though you've been having demonic encounters. And he is so jealous. He wants to be the only God, the only lover. He's jealous you've got all these other lovers, Buddha and all the other. He's the only God, and he loves you, and he saved you." And she starts to weep and to cry. She goes, "Yes, I know he's always been there for me. He's always shows up in my..." And so I get to pray with her right there. So God appeared to this woman in a New Age place, seeking God. There's a lot of people in the occult or the New Age, just, they don't know. They're just looking for something that satisfies.
They have a hunger for God.
Yeah.
They're literally desperate for God.
Oh, yes, and wide open.
And you know what? The counterfeit looks really good until you see the authentic.
Exactly.
That's what you were doing. You were presenting the authentic. Now, what intrigues me is your book says there's certain places or certain dates that there is just free passage from heaven to earth. Tell me about that.
Yeah, on the earth, there's geographical portals that are already opened, that if you go there, you're already under an open heaven. Like, for instance, the obvious, Jerusalem, Israel, Bethel. You go to places in Israel where you walk in and instantly you're in like the presence of God because something is open, like Bethel. It says in the Bible, this is the gate of heaven. So it talks about a gate that's already open.
Well, you know what? That must be why there's such a struggle over Jerusalem.
Exactly, because it's the biggest portal, I believe, in the whole world. You have the religious spirit thing going on, but when you pray in Jerusalem and you break through into the glory is even stronger than anything else you can imagine. I get visited by God so much more when I go to Israel than anywhere else on the earth.
Well, besides